And now I need you to understand this. The seed and thought are not similar. They are not comparable. They are not analogous. They are the same, synonymous, operating by the same law, the same rule of action. What is true of the physical seed is true of thought. This is the 7-minute daily focus, day 115 of 365, to focus on the world within from the world without. Today's focus, the law of seed, thought and seed. Pause for a moment. 2 days into the law of seed, you have understood what the seed is. You have understood its nature. And now I need you to understand this. The seed and thought are not similar. They are not comparable. They are not analogous. They are the same, synonymous, operating by the same law, the same rule of action. What is true of the physical seed is true of thought, exactly, completely, without exception. This is not a comparison. This is identity. Pause. When you hear the law of seed, you may picture the physical seed, the one held in your hand, the one placed in the ground. This is useful, but do not stop there, because the physical seed is the expression of the principle, not the principle itself. The principle is this: a seed carries the complete actuality of what it will physically express, and thought operates by that same principle, exactly, completely, and every time. The physical seed shows you the law made visible. Thought is the law itself, operating within. Thought is within. Effect is without. Thinking stands between. Pause. Thought is the seed of the world within. It carries within it the complete actuality of what it will physically express. Not possibility, not potential, actuality. Already complete, already whole, already carrying everything it will become in physical form, before thinking has sustained it, before a single physical sign has appeared. The thought already holds its full expression, exactly as the physical seed holds the tree. The same law, the same rule, the same precision. Thought and seed are one. Pause. This is precise. The same law, the same rule of action. What thinking does to the seed, it does to thought. What the ground does to the physical seed, thinking does to the thought. The ground receives the seed, thinking receives the thought. The ground allows what is within the seed to develop. Thinking allows what is within the thought to develop. And what develops unfolds. And what unfolds must physically express. In the same way, by the same law, every time, without exception. The law does not change for thought. The law is the same. Pause. This is why the language in this system is precise. When you hear seed, you hear thought. When you hear plant the seed, you hear direct thinking to the thought. When you hear the seed unfolds, you hear the thought physically expresses. There are one thing described through two lenses. The physical seed makes the principle visible to the five senses. The thought is the principle itself, operating within, both governed by the same law, both unfolding by the same rule. No separation, no hierarchy between them. Pause. Most people do not understand thought this way. They treat thought as fleeting, as something that passes, as something that may or may not become real, as something uncertain. But this is not what the law says. The law says every thought carries the complete actuality of what it will physically express. Every thought. Not some thoughts, not special thoughts. Every thought held within carries its full expression, and what is sustained upon it through thinking develops, and what develops must physically express. This is the law, constant, exact, for every thought. Pause. Consider what this means for the thoughts you are sustaining right now, not the thoughts you wish you were sustaining, not the thoughts you intend to sustain, the thoughts you are actually sustaining in this moment. Each of those thoughts carries its complete actuality. Each of those seeds is already developing right now through the thinking you are directing upon them. The law does not distinguish between intentional thinking and habitual thinking. It develops whatever is sustained. This is why awareness of your thinking matters, not as self-criticism, but as precision, as stewardship of the seed. Pause. There is another layer to seed and thought being synonymous. If thought is the seed, then every thought you have ever held has been developing, not just the thoughts you consciously chose, every thought that was sustained, every recurring pattern of inner conversation, every habitual recognition repeated over time, all of it was a seed, all of it was developing, and what was sustained long enough, expressed. This is not a cause for alarm, it is a cause for precision, for from this point forward, you are choosing which seed is placed before thinking. You are choosing which thought is sustained, and the thoughts you choose from within will be the seeds that develop into what you want physically expressed. Pause for a moment. So let this be precise from this day. When you direct thinking toward a thought, know that you are directing thinking toward a seed that already carries its complete expression, a seed that is already complete in metaphysical form, and your thinking is the ground that receives it. The act of placing thinking upon a thought is the act of placing the seed in the ground, and once placed, once thinking is sustained upon it, the law of seed begins operating. Development begins, not because you have done something extraordinary, but because you have aligned with the law, and the law does the rest. Not doubtfulness, not struggle, not force. You are not pushing the seed, not pressure. You are not trying to make it happen, but steadfastness, focused. Remain aligned with what is within. Do not be moved by what is physically seen, because what is physically seen is always secondary to what is unfolding. Pause. This is why the work you are doing each day matters, because you are learning to direct thinking deliberately, not to allow whatever thought is loudest to be sustained without examination, but to choose which thought is placed before thinking, to choose which seed is placed in the ground, and to sustain thinking upon that seed steadfastly, without interruption, without being moved by what is physically seen, because what is physically seen is the expression of what has already been sustained, not the guide for what should be sustained next. Pause. Seed and thought are the same, operating by the same law, the same rule of action. Remember this today. Every time you hold a thought, you are holding a seed, and every seed already carries the complete actuality of what it will physically express. So choose the thought with care, recognize what it carries, and sustain thinking upon the thought that comes from within, the thought that is already complete, the thought that already holds what is real, because that thought is a seed, and the seed will unfold, and what unfolds must physically express. Now, the affirmation for day 115. Pause for a moment. Thought is the seed. The seed is thought. They operate by the same law, the same rule of action. What is true of the physical seed is true of thought. Exactly, completely. Every thought I hold carries the complete actuality of what it will physically express. I choose the thought from within. I recognize it as already complete. I sustain thinking upon it steadfastly, without interruption. I am not moved by what is physically seen. I remain upon the thought that is drawn from within. And because I remain, the seed develops. And because it develops, it unfolds. And what unfolds must physically express. Remember, by design, by focus.